good.
Good, good.
Excellent. This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD via Zoom and this very, very early morning, Tuesday, Dantes. How are you today, Dantes?
I am wonderful. How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. It's a very early interview. Is this
Yes, it
your
is.
is this your earliest interview ever, or have you had earlier ones?
Miss Wizard, I think this is actually my earliest interview, which is why I have on the shade. So you guys have to excuse me this morning.
You look very, very good with shades
Thank
and
you.
all. Okay, well, there's so much to talk about. You're going through many, working yourself up in many different disciplines, and the latest of which are your radio shows. How did your radio show Access Lakeshore Drive come about?
Well, the Access Lakeshore Drive show actually started just as like everybody else when we were going through the isolation of COVID, right? We needed things to do to keep our creative juices bubbling. Originally, it was a podcast, so we did our first 7 episodes on Spotify. And then for season 2, which we just launched in October, I believe that was October 2nd. That was our inaugural season on the radio. So for season 2, we're on the radio. But this season, I wanted to focus on certain topics. But yeah, I guess in a nutshell, just to get everybody caught up, yes, that's how that started.
And where can listeners find you? What are the call letters and call numbers?
Yeah, so the Access Lecture Drive show airs it's the second Friday of every month on WSBC Chicago, 1240 AM. So very, very excited to work with them and have a partnership with them. Very, very nice folks over there. I'm just grateful that they've embraced my content.
What time is your show on the second Friday of every month?
So it's 7 p.m. 7
7 p.m.
p.m. Yep, 7 p.m.
And could our listeners find your other shows that have aired already?
Yeah, absolutely. So if listeners want to check out the previous shows, they can go to the accesslakeshoredriveshow.com to stream the new season as well as the past season.
Okay, but however, how does Access Lakeshore Drive fit into everything else that you're doing? Your EDM, and then your singles, etc., and then your video game in which you incorporated your music. So everything incorporates into the next thing. And how do everything that has been before incorporate into Access Lakeshore Drive?
That's a really good question. That's why I'm laughing. Um, Everything has a connection in the Dantes universe. The Access Lakeshore Drive show, the title of that show, as well as the theme song to that show, is actually based off of my hit single, New Jack City. So it was actually taken from a lyric in New Jack City. So that's how the Access Lakeshore Drive show actually started. The lyric in New Jack City is Lakeshore Drive, riding down 79th. It's Friday night. All the girls are looking right, etc. So that's how that came about. Tales from the Sixth Dimension, which is a science fiction horror show, that is also based off of another single of mine called The Sixth Dimension. Video game, Dantes' New Jack City, based off of a character based around me, set in Chicago, that fights crime and tries to take back the city from the corrupt politicians, the mayor and city council. So everything always has a political spin and always ties back to Dantes in some some amazing way. Yeah, good for catching
So is most of your content somehow morality plays and commentary?
I think for Tales from the Sixth Dimension specifically, we were trying to go for surprises and morality tales. You're absolutely right. So for episode one, that story specifically, Underground Nightmare, deals with racism, classism, sexism, and more importantly, it talks about mental illness, which is something that we tend to forget. You know, we all go through in our own strange way. So that's what the focus of at least episode one is. So morality is obviously very, very important. For everything I do, I try and borrow something from what's going on in the times. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for Tales from the Sixth Dimension, does that have anything to do with the sixth sense, or is that why sixth dimension? Why not the seventh dimension or the fifth dimension?
Well, as you know, there is a fifth dimension, which I'm very, very, very proud to actually share co-credits with the writers of Age of Aquarius on that song, the original version of that. Well, the sixth dimension is where sound comes from and where sound vibration comes from. So the sixth dimension, in essence, can be viewed as a sonic spiritual plane. So it is a plane where you are allowed to tap into sonic and audio vibrations that only the universe or God or whomever it is that we all worship or listen to for guidance gives us. So that's the sixth dimension. The fifth dimension, which I love that band, right? Age of Aquarius, right? I'm still sort of in shock that I was able to actually get clearance for them on my first album. But yes, the sixth dimension sound is where everything comes from.
And when you say Tales from the Sixth Dimension, did that have any derivation derivation from Tales from the Dark Side?
No, you know, I had thought about that. I thought about that a great deal, you know, when I was, you know, coming up, you know, with names. The show could have just been called Sixth Dimension, right? But I felt like Tales was it's sort of a good way to rope people in, right? When you think of all of the classic science fiction or anthology series like Tales from the Crypt, right? Another Tales, right? Like you just said, Tales from the Dark Side. So I think a lot of it had to do with just trying to find those 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables and words that actually went well together. But in coincidence, it followed that same, you know, pattern of Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Hood, etc. So yeah.
When could the listeners hear Tales from the Sixth Dimension, times and dates, etc.?
So Tales from the Sixth Dimension airs on WSBC Chicago, 1240 a.m. It airs the first Friday of every month at 7 p.m. You guys can listen to that. Theme song, title song, obviously, is my track, Sixth Dimension. Written, produced, directed by me, stars me, Ashley Harris. The first episode also features narration from Mark Holton, which everyone knows and loves from Leprechaun and Teen Wolf and all of those cool things. So check it out on Spotify also now too.
How did you come to work with Mark Holton?
Well, you know, me and Mark have actually been friends now for, I think, a very, very long time. I try and not put dates, or either I can't remember it. It's something crazy from the sixth dimension where you just forget time. But I actually had Mark on my show, I think, at the beginning of the year. Very wonderful man, very sweet man. We became friends, you know, very close thereafter, obviously, both of us working in this business. And, you know, me having a great appreciation for everybody and everything that has come before me. I just felt like it was a great, friendship and relationship to foster, and we just kind of, grew into that, and we had this shared love of theater of the mind and the Twilight Zone and all of these other things, and it was a wonderful experience. I cannot say anything bad about Mark. He was a wonderful, 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 wonderful actor to work with. Uh, we obviously, wanted to bring something fresh to everybody. So this show features a rotating cast of characters. There will be obviously additional celebrities other than myself and Ashley Harris every other episode. So this upcoming episode, which we're on holiday now, we'll be going back to work for a brand new episode, actually in January. So they'll most likely be re-air this week. We want to make sure that we have everything, appropriate and set for everybody.
For Access to Lakeshore Drive, you interviewed Fred Hampton Jr. How did you come to work with Fred Hampton Jr.?
Well, shout out to Chairman Fred Hampton Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Long live the Hampton household there. I just reached out to him. I reached out to him and I asked him if he'd be interested in coming on the show. He said he'd be interested in coming on the show. I think actually that's probably one of my most interesting interviews I think that I've done. Very, very smart man. He's very much aware of the current political climate, and he's doing everything that he can, like our Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce president, Bill Morton, which everyone knows, who's running for chamber. And we need great men like that to lead us to a place of unity. A lot of people think that the Black Panthers are a terrorist organization. They're actually far from that. They're responsible for the launching of the nationwide school breakfast program that we all are fortunate to have taken part of. So I'm very, very, very blessed and very grateful to have had that moment in time. And yeah.
You have a big fan base in Germany. How is all this new content, this new work of yours, are they reaching your fans in Germany as well?
Well, I think over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, my audience has grown exponentially. Truthfully, honestly, beyond measure. I've actually started to see a lot more success here on our own continent. In fact, last night I was actually told that my single, the Skywriter remix, is actually on its way to crack the Canadian iTunes 100. So everyone pray and cross your fingers for that. But everything, happens, I guess, in its own time. Germany's always been wonderful. Europe's actually always been wonderful. On my next project, I'm actually working with Funk Investigation, who's known for their collaboration with George Michael Flawless on a new single. So we've partnered on that new single that we're going to launch and for Europe and do some other things. So, but Europe's always been a little more receptive to music in general. In fact, they actually do R&B, rhythm and blues. You look at people like Duffy, Joss Stone. All of these people have a great affinity for American soul music, and they're all British. So that just goes to show you, that they have a appreciation for, all things that are true and authentic, and they try and mimic it themselves. And we all know that, house music, electronica, dance, rhythm and blues, all of these things, either come from Chicago, Tennessee, what have you. So yeah, they're great. I love them all.
And what about the Canadian, your Canadian audience? How did that start?
Spotify Radio has been very, very good for my career. I have a love-hate relationship with that platform because, for varying reasons, which I won't get into. But Spotify Radio has been very, very instrumental, to my career. With the New Jack City 3 project, I tried to control the product a little bit better, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
I guess you have a little bit more creative control and production control. Is that what you mean?
In a way, yeah. So for this project, what I did was I actually followed a movie release type of schedule. So we did a 60-day release only on Apple Music and iTunes and Tidal and TikTok. So which meant that there was, limited streaming availability of this new album, which in turn actually pushed all of my Spotify listeners to Apple, not all of them, but pushed a great deal of traffic to Apple Music to stream and buy it. Over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of downloads and purchases. So I'm very, very excited about that. Just because, you have to do things a little differently. Now the album's available, on Spotify. It's still not available on YouTube. I might release a single to YouTube. Not fond of YouTube. But, as a creator and, someone who's in control of their product, I can do what I think is right for it. So, yeah.
Could you give us a little bit about why you're not fond of YouTube?
Well, I think a lot of these platforms have a history of not paying its, creators what they're worth. Music specifically, right now we're in a battle for, a better songwriting and streaming royalty. And until we actually get to that point, there are going to be a lot of musicians who, struggle to pay their rent. Even major artists, find it difficult to, sustain themselves. It's a very, very tough business, and the streaming economy is very, very good for discovery, but for longevity, in this day and age, I think it's important to, branch out and have different variations of what it is that you're doing to make money. Yeah.
So in other words, you're saying that YouTube doesn't pay enough, but but a lot of the music is viewed on YouTube, and then you don't get the artists don't get the royalties that they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A very small segment of of our beautiful country actually still buys records. Mm-hmm. It's not that we don't. It's just that there's not very many of us who do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when we upload the videos and then there is some copyrighted material in the background, and then YouTube states that this contains copyrighted material, but you have the artist's permission to use it, and then but you have to allow some commercials. But actually in that little time, YouTube never contacted the artist, right? What do you have any insight on what that frame means before that little caveat that YouTube throws in there?
Well, all of this stuff is actually relatively new, I think, to maybe the last 10 years, I think, of music. So content ID is something that all labels, any music company has access to, and that is used so the artist can monetize their work.
Exactly.
So, and that was part of the reason why I chose to, make or create both of these shows based off of my songs. Because it's a consistent vehicle not only for the music, but it allows the record to be played, not only just online, through traditional means, for royalties, but also through, you know, yeah. It's hard to explain, but yeah.
Yeah, what I think that you're saying is that rather than have someone else use your content for monetization, since you're inspired and you have ways of using it, why not use it yourself?
Right. Mhm.
Well, so tell us a little bit more about your new album.
Well, my new album is New Jack City 3, all mixed up. So the title is actually a wordplay of a couple of, things that are dear and important to my heart. New Jack City, obviously, is what we all know New Jack City to be. This is my third project. Can you believe that? So it is a project from the beginning to the end about God, love, gun violence, um, and having strong faith. But everything is always done in the guise of electronic dance pop, um, or you can say electronic dance music, which, it's unfortunate that I've gotten, categorized, in that category because electronic dance music is such a broad spectrum of, different things. Beyonce is doing electronic dance music. Um, you know, Taylor Swift has, songs that are, electronic. So this is not like a niche category, but it's something that everybody loves. A lot. Electronica and pop music, are one and the same now. So the music that I make now, which is really really cool, is very very mainstream. Um, so I have all remixes. I have two new songs. Or is there three new songs? I'm sorry. No, there's two new songs. So the new songs would be Follow and Armor On for the rest of my day. So Armor On, there we go, another Christian reference. It's very important for me to throw those things into my music. Um, the You're the One Skywriter remix is actually doing very, very well. The original version of that for my first album was actually a ballad. So this track is really, really cool. It is a UK garage track. UK garage is very, very, very cool. Some people may not know what that is, but go Google that, go search that. So it's a complete reworking, brand new energy. I love it. Six Dimension remix on that album also as well. New Jack City, which is the title track from my first album, is on here. So for me, it's a full circle project. So it's a electronic dance music project with hints and shades of R&B, and it's a wonderful project. Everybody go stream.
When even in your music, you throw in commentary about that, and social commentary. What would you say comes first, the sound or the commentary for you?
Well, it depends, it depends. I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks full of unfinished lyrics and materials and things like that. They may not always come together in that moment when you're writing them, but what I find that ends up happening is you save, those unwritten poems and unwritten journal entries. And then, somewhere down the line when you're, writing a song intentionally, you say, oh, this piece goes good with that piece.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's usually, how that works. Um, and then comes the sound. What was great about this project is since it's a remix album, you don't remix your own material. So I was able to find and I hate to use the word discover a really amazing producer out of Ohio who I chose to helm those 3 remix singles from this new album. I think people will be pleased. It's a traditional, a traditional electronic dance music record. It's a proper house record. And it's also a pop record. So please go stream New Jack City 3, all mixed up, available now on all platforms.
With so let's say there's a new listener that has not sampled your work before, where would you suggest that the listener go sample first?
That's like asking me what my favorite song is. When you have so many kids, you tend to love all of them, and I would think that with parents, like when, we as humans, we have, a lot of children. I don't think that our parents favor, one child over the other. They love everybody equally. And I feel that way, about my music. It's so hard. All of them are near and dear and personal to my heart, but I think if people want to get a idea of who Dantes is, and the true Dantes sound, I think I would point people in the category to listen to So Below, which is my double platinum now, actually, on Spotify. I think the last time I was here, it was still at the million streams there. So we actually have to order a new plaque because now we're at like 2.9 million streams on that.
Oh, congratulations. How much time between the two? Like 2 point something from 1 million. How much time elapsed between? Have you any idea?
Well, this song has actually been out, I think, now for 2 years, right? So about 2 years.
Okay.
About 2 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the first album, New Jack City, is, I just looked at the numbers and actually just posted that to social media to say thank you to all of my listeners. Is almost actually at about 500,000 streams, that first album. So if these were traditional CDs, this would be a gold album, but these are digital sales, streams rather. So, but I'm very, very proud of that. The second project, did about 100,000. So, I'm, continuing to grow and evolve. And I also, to jump back one more time, I also would point out Killer, to people to listen to, if they're not familiar with my work. So, yes.
At what point would you consider releasing physical CDs versus digital?
Well, there may be some surprises coming up, in the next, month or two. I just, started working. Well, I'm always working on stuff. I don't actually stop working on stuff. So I think the next single from the next project will probably be that. I don't want to talk about the new the future too much because we're still in the New Jack City era right now. And but I'm always creating, always thinking about what's next. What's next in the far future, though, is brand new single with yeah. I think I mentioned it already. So
for radio, how much do you have to prepare before every show, would you say?
Oh my gosh, there's a great deal of preparation that actually goes into the show. For Tales from the Sixth Dimension, since that's a scripted series, you can only imagine from doing the acting, that takes a great deal of time. It takes a great deal of time, because you're acting, obviously, and you have to make sure that you get the character's emotions correctly, and then also making sure that you can meet the schedule of the other cast members. So that takes a great deal of time. There's a lot of cooperation that goes into these projects. So that's one. The second, would be the script writing. The script writing, like I said, I do the writing as well. A script can take, for this show, usually takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks to produce, and then the actual scoring of the show takes about a month. So that is, it requires a lot of preparation for that show. The Access Lakeshore Drive show doesn't actually require as much preparation because that show is more or less like a cafe, as I like to call it. I sit down and I talk with different other famous celebrities who may have had the same degree of fame or not, but who I felt or at least feel are unsung, and they may not be as known to the greater worldwide community as they are, in the brown, and persons of color community.
When you do the Tales from the Sixth Dimension, do you use storyboards in the beginning?
No, actually, no, we don't. Everything always starts with a sentence and ends with a sentence. I'm able to visualize how I want the show to actually be based on the sound. So the sound actually comes first in my mind. So as I'm out and going through my day, I'll listen to different varying sounds, as strange as it sounds, cars going by, or change dropping, just trying to get and hear different sound textures that I can weave into the show. So I think actually the sound comes first and then the script comes. If that's so weird, right? The difference in strategy for this show, but that was a very good question.
Well, you did mention that the sixth dimension is the sound and the sonic dimension. So that's great. What about in the beginning? When you started writing the show, is that how you progressed as well, starting from a sound, or is it more so now?
I think it's more so now. It's more so now. But in the beginning, I didn't really have an idea of what I was doing. That first script actually, took a great deal of time, because I wanted it to be true to the genre, and make sure that I, could make, all of those sounds. And, as we talked, when we all went to breakfast, Miss Wizard, I had to actually make a special apparatus to create all of those sounds. I would go get it because it's actually off the camera, but it's essentially I looked it up. The official name of this apparatus is called the apprehension machine. So essentially is a piece of wood. So I went and got a piece of wood and attached a spoon, a fork, nails, and a few other things, that you hit or you drag, things on to, make all of those creepy sounds. I took guitar string and added that to it so I could create, different strange, plucking noises and sounds. Everything I feel like always goes back to the sixth dimension, the sound, right?
Mm-hmm. So when you make these sounds, you what are you seeking to make a sound, or do you experiment around and let's put it this way: do you have a recorder with you? Whenever you hear a sound that's interesting, do you
Yes.
record it?
Yes, I am. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I carry it around with me all the time, because you can't get everything from the program that you download to your or the files that you may have on your computer. So you have to go out sometimes and make these sounds organically to get the feeling that you desire.
What about the old radio shows that like the horror ones, the science fiction radio shows? Do you listen to those? Have you enjoyed those and been inspired by what happened before?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I love all of the old radio serials, but in particular, um, I'm influenced heavily by Night Gallery, The Twilight Zone, The X-Files, Alfred Hitchcock for this show. Um, there's a lot of varying influences for this show. But all of the old radio serials, all of these programs that I just mentioned, they made, stories with minimal effort and a lot of smart acting, writing, and sound, more importantly. And that's what attracted me to it.
At what point do you think that you might be able to do 2 shows per month for the Tales from the Sixth Dimension instead of just one?
Well, I have to focus on, my music career also too, which is, equally as important, So for now, for, the near future, having, 2 shows a month, producing, writing, and directing and doing all of these shows, I feel like, is enough. Because at the end of the day, I, am a musician, I'm a singer, and being called the Prince Regent of EDM, I do have a crown to maintain and to hold. So we cannot forget music, and music is for me always going to be just as important as acting, directing, and producing and starring in all of these shows.
Who named you Prince Regent of EDM?
The LA Times Now, Mob York City, um, my goodness, Hype Magazine, um, a lot of people, and I take that very seriously. When I didn't win the Chicago Music Award, I gained something better. I gained a title. I gained the Prince Regent of EDM, and that's something that no one will be able to take from me. I think it's actually been even more of a greater honor than actually having a Chicago Music Award. So yeah.
Mm. Well, that is, if our listeners want to learn more about you and listen to your shows and access your music, please provide some information for them now in case our listeners did not hear the entire program.
Sure. So, you guys, if you want to hear more about me and learn more about all of this amazing stuff that I have, you guys can always go to Google. You can do a quick search for the Prince Regent of EDM, or you can go to my Instagram, which would be instagram.com/Dantes Alexander, or you can Google search Dantes' New Jack City to learn more about me.
Well, Dantes, thank you so much for joining us so early this morning on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM.
Thank you.
You're welcome.